Here's the essentials you need to know if you need to know about Sonnet 29 by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. First off, this is a sonnet, right? A 14-line poem, generally written about love, not always, but if you make a point about that in an exam, it's a useful point to make. The overview is, it's a poem about obsessive love. She is in love with somebody and she cannot stop thinking about this person. And what she actually wants is not the fantasy version she's built up in her head, but the real human being in front of her. Let's have a look at some key quotations, shall we? So if we look at number one, start off with right up at the start, I think of thee with an exclamation mark. She is thinking about this person a lot, and it's clearly passionate because she's got this short sentence with the exclamation mark. Next to it, she uses a little bit of a metaphor, and there's an extended metaphor here, using some natural imagery throughout the poem. Number two, she says, my thoughts do twine and bud about thee as wild vines. Now with this one, her thoughts of him are kind of acting as vines around this tree until they've totally surrounded this tree. So she's thinking about him so much and obsessed about him so much that she's added loads of details about him and made him into this kind of weird fantasy version of him. And it's not quite the same as the real version of him in this metaphor. Okay, what she actually says is, in the middle, quotation 3, I will not have my thoughts instead of thee who are dearer, better. These two comparatives, dearer and better, that's the comparatives there, right, mean that she's comparing the real version to the fantasy version, and she'd rather have the real version. She wants the actual human being, not the fantasy she's got in her head, right? What she actually wants is down the bottom of the poem, right? She wants them to meet up. Quotation 4, she says she's going to breathe within my shadow a new air. So she's going to stand within his shadow, right next to him, right? And that's going to give her a new air. Breathing the same air as him is going to refresh her. It's like she's breathing new air, like she's come alive again because she's next to him. And the very last line, I do not think of thee, I am too near thee. She can't think about him anymore because she's in the moment with him, and that's what she wants. Now the context here is, this is a poem written about her husband, Robert Browning, also in the poetry anthology, right? She was a very sick young woman, and she was kind of an invalid who was mostly at home with her dad and her brother, and relatively wealthy, and she did very well as a poet, right? Robert Browning was a slightly penniless poet, right, who fell in love with her and is supposed to have fallen in love with her actual words before he even met her, and they met secretively. Now, this poem is about that kind of secret relationship. She can't be near him all the time, and what she actually wants is to be with him, to have the real version. She doesn't just want to think about it and have a fantasy about it. She actually wants to be with him.